Welcome, parents, to your virtual training for your child's AAC device. Thank you so much for your flexibility during this time while we try and figure out the best way to support students and families in District 205 during the school closure. My apologies to those of you who had in-person training scheduled and we weren't able to, meet to go over that. And to those of you that have a device at home that maybe weren't planning on it, we wanted to get devices out to students. Not sure how long we're going to be out, and so wanted to make sure that your child has their voice and is able to continue their AAC learning while they're at home with you. And we'll go over a few ways today that you can continue to support that. My name is Bridget Peterson. I'm the Assistive Technology Specialist for District 205. My email is here on the bottom of the screen. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help you troubleshoot or work through something you want to do with the AAC device. We can always set up a Google Hangout potentially if we need to, or a Zoom call or things like that if it's not something that we can fix via email. We could also do a phone call. So I'm here to help. Anything you need, please feel free to ask me. I know things are very uncertain right now, and some of you might be a little overwhelmed with everything that's going on at home. I know, I'm now working from home and having to do homeschool I have 3 kids who are in the school system, so I definitely understand that kind of overwhelmed feeling. So definitely not trying to overwhelm you today, but to give you some information. So again, please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. So the things that we're going to go over today, we're going to talk about AAC implementation, and we're also going to talk about some ideas for incorporating it at home. We're going to talk about using guided access on the iPad. That's going to lock your child into their AAC app. That's something we do at school. And then we're going to also talk about TouchChat, kind of the app itself, the use of the app, and editing. So we're going to start today with modeling AAC. And what that means is that when you're talking to your child, we'd also like you to be using the device as well as part of your communication with them. So you might go ahead and say to them, we're going to go to the grocery store today. It's the only place we can go, really, right now. And you're going to say that phrase, and then you're also going to press go on the communication device. And the reason that we do that is this graphic here shows if we have a child who their input or the language we're using with them is spoken language is what we provide them or what the environment provides them. We expect their output or what the child does to be spoken language. For students who are using AAC, if our input is only spoken language, but we expect their output to be aided language, which is what an AAC device is, then that gets a little bit confusing. So that would be similar to if I have a child who speaks English, their family and other people in their environment are speaking English to them, and in turn that child speaks English back. What would be similar would be this is if we spoke English to the child and expected the child to respond to us in German. It would be a little bit confusing, and so what we want to do is provide aided language and spoken language as our input, and then we'll hopefully get aided language and spoken language as our output. We do have research that shows that students who use AAC devices do increase their spoken output because students are always going to communicate in whatever is the easiest way possible. So, as they gain more speech, they're going to speak some of those things. So we want to make sure that we're providing that modeling. So you're just going to touch some of the words you say while you say them. You do not have to touch every word you say. If you try to do that, you will go a little bit crazy, especially trying to keep up grammatically. So please don't feel like you have to do that. Right now, this is something that's new and it's new for your child. You're only going to use probably one word at a time, and that's okay. So we're going to watch this video here. This is a video of a mom at home with her kids baking cookies. This is their iPad back here on the kitchen counter. Their app is different. They're not using TouchChat, but that's okay. The modeling strategy that mom is going to use is the same. So you're just going to see her model some single words throughout starting this cookie recipe. So we're just going to watch that.
You make it go?
No.
Make it go. Yay! Good job, Philip. Do you know what we're going to make? What are we going to make? Do you know?
No.
You don't know?
No.
That's okay. I'll tell you. We're going to make cookies. Cookies. Do you love cookies? Russell, do you love cookies? Yeah. So let's go over here because When we make our cookies, the first things, look, we're going to go to colors. Colors, because we're going to put in some brown sugar. Who wants to put in the brown sugar? You do? Okay, Russell's going to put in the brown sugar. Very good. Philip, do you want to put in some sugar? Yes? Okay, let's look over here. There's one more sugar left. Let me show you. Here's the sugar that needs to go back. This is white. White. It's white sugar. And let's go to pour. You can say, I want to put it in. Yes, good job. Okay, Philip, here. You can put it in. Yay, very good. All right. I think that it's time to use the mixer. This is going to be so cool. Are you ready to help? Help. You're going to help with the mixer. Okay, so I'm going to hold it. And then you guys are going to make it go. Okay, I'm going to hold it here and you guys just hold down that button. Make it go. What do you think? Gotta make it go, go, go.
All right, so you'll see in that video there, Mom just modeled some single words. She did some verbs like make, go, help, think. She also did some colors for the colors of the sugar, and then she did some pronouns, so I and you. So very simple. She wasn't doing a lot. You'll also notice she didn't really require Philip, the little boy who, is minimally verbal, to do any responding. So she's just providing that input. And we're going to think of that just like an infant or a toddler who's learning language. We do a lot of language input, a lot of talking to that child before we even expect them to talk back to us. So right now, your expectation for your child is just to kind of learn from you. And so don't worry so much about what your child's doing. Not worry, but pay more attention to what you're doing and making sure you're giving them opportunities to see you using the device. So things to remember, we're going to just model as many times as you feel comfortable doing it throughout the day. That's what we want. And we don't want you to have to think of new things that you're doing. Just looking at the routines that you're already doing and thinking about, what's one or maybe two words that you could model within that routine already. So within breakfast time, meals, you could do put, you could do on, because you might be putting things on the table. You could request for more. When you're getting dressed, you could talk about colors because maybe you want to have blue socks or pink socks or something like that. So you could do colors there, things like that. So just looking at activities that you're already doing and trying to keep it simple. So start with one activity that you feel comfortable with and then building as you get more comfortable from there. Another suggestion I have, if you feel comfortable, is if your child has any siblings, to get your siblings involved. Sometimes peers are the best teachers for kids. And so them being able to interact with an older sibling or even a younger sibling while using the device can be really motivating. So we're going to watch this short video here. This is the same little boy from the previous video. And in this video, he's going to be playing with his sister and they're going to play with this stacking toy right here.
Look at all these shapes. You see, orange is on that top. Can you press top?
Chop, chop.
Good. Now you see purple is on the bottom.
Bottom.
Can you press bottom?
Bottom. Bottom.
Good. Now let's fill them. Let's put purple on the bottom. Can you put it? Now let's put blue on top of the purple one. Good. Now let's put green on top of blue. Wait. Yellow, so yellow ball on top of green. Let's put orange on top of yellow. Yay!
So you see they're just playing together with the stacking toy, and she's just modeling top and bottom. So simple words, not very, she's not doing anything very complicated. So easy to hopefully incorporate siblings if your child has any, or if you have any additional children. If your child has a favorite toy or a favorite activity that they like to do, and you're maybe having trouble brainstorming a core word that you could model during that activity, feel free to send me an email. We can brainstorm together. And try and come up with that. And I can also help put together some like maybe materials for you that might make it easier. I'm trying to help make this as simple as possible. So the easier it is, the more likely you are to do it. At least that's my opinion. So some ideas for implementing AAC at home. One that would be my favorite, and I think is a great place to start, would be story time. And you have two options during story time. So the first one would be model a word from the book. So for example, down here you have brown bear, where you could model I see a red bird looking at me. I see a purple cat looking at me. You could model C. You could model me. So there would be lots of words. You would just go through and you can pick one word and just model that every time you read it in the book. Another thing that you could do is model about the book or what you're doing. So it's my turn to turn the page, or my children used to like to read those lift the flap books when they were younger, and they would take turns. So my daughter would turn it on the first page, or would lift the flap on the first page, and then my son would take a turn, and then they'd go back and forth. So it could be it's my turn, or it's your turn, or we're going to turn the page. So you can talk about that as well. During mealtime, you could request more of something. You could say, I don't like it, or I like it. You could talk about putting things on the table. You could talk about stopping something. Maybe if they're doing something silly at dinner that they're not supposed to do. That's what happens a lot at my house. So those would be some things you could talk about there. And then when you're looking at playtime, there's lots of things that you can do with just toys you already have or games. So if you have a Mr. Potato Head and that's something you could play with, you can put the piece, you could model the word put, you could model the word in for putting the pieces in. You could do blocks similar to how the brother and sister did in the video, and put additional blocks on top. So lots of things that you could do for physical play. If you would like to do tickling or kind of a chase or a tag, you could do stop, my turn, your turn, things like that. So again, if you have a specific activity or toy that your child really likes to play with, I'm happy to help brainstorm as well if you're having a hard time thinking of a word. And then I just wanted to share some of these with you. These are some families who are on social media who are using AAC. I think sometimes it's really nice to see, other people who are kind of in the thick of it with you, working together for this. One caveat I just want to say is most of these families have been using AAC for quite a while. So please do not feel like you need to be doing exactly what they're doing. They were all where you are, just starting out, and they've just been on this journey a little bit longer. So just remember that what you're seeing is them, you're seeing yourself 5 years, sometimes, or more years in the future. So don't put pressure on yourself to do exactly what they're doing, but they have some great examples. So here we have We Speak Pod. This is a family. They have 3 children that they've adopted who all have significant needs. All their children have physical impairments, and they use a specific communication system called a pod. So again, it's different than the TouchChat app, but a lot of what she talks about is applicable no matter what your system is. She's really accessible. She talks a lot about how this is just talking and we're not really doing anything additional. So she really advocates just trying to make it very natural for her children. She's been working with her kids on it for a long time, and they are definitely not proficient yet. And so I think that's really great too. We see that it's not an overnight fix. There is definitely learning lots of things that need to take place for our kids to become proficient communicators using an AAC device. Also on Facebook and on YouTube are two techie mamas. So it's a family. They have one child who uses an AAC device. And then lots of Comptons. That's the family you saw in the previous two videos. And they only have a YouTube channel, but they have quite a few videos. So definitely check them out. If, through your social media accounts, you come across another family that you really like, please feel free to share, because I'd love to be able to give additional resources to families, and even better if they're vetted by other families in District 205. So now we're going to talk about guided access. Once you have your child in the TouchChat app, to start guided access, you're going to go ahead and triple click on the home button. And because it's already set up, it's just going to pop up and tell you that guided access has started. So now if you hit the home button to try to navigate out of this app, you're going to get the message at the top just letting you know that guided access is enabled. If you do want to disable guided access, you're going to again triple click on the home button. And then the enter passcode window will pop up, and you're going to put in your passcode, which is a 2 and then 5 zeros, and then you'll just hit end. Now you're able to navigate out of the TouchChat app. So you saw there when the passcode popped up, you didn't see any numbers, and that's just because I was doing a screenshot, so it hides those. But you will see numbers similar to a phone when yours pops up, and you'll just put in your passcode, which again is 200,000, so 2 and then 5 zeros. And I also have written directions for guided access as well. And then what I'll do is the YouTube channel that I'm putting together, I will upload these videos individually as well. So if you just want to go in, you don't want to go through this longer video, but you just want to just look at the guided access, you can do that as well. So just wanting to talk to you about why we use guided access. So this iPad that your child is using is what we call a dedicated iPad for AAC. So the only thing that they should be accessing on that iPad is the communication app that they have. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, if we also have them accessing things like other educational apps or things like YouTube or Netflix, when they're in those other apps, they now no longer have access to their voice. So for example, if they go into YouTube and they're, you set them up with a video, and then all of a sudden they realize that's not the video that they wanted, they now don't have any way to tell you that that's not the video that they want, because their voice is in another app. And as you may or may not know, but on iPads, you cannot run two things at the same time. And so we want to make sure that they only use this iPad for their voice. And then if they do need something like additional educational apps or access to YouTube or something like that, that they would do that on a different device and they could have both at the same time. The other thing we want to just be able to do is communicate to your child that this iPad or this device is only for your voice, so they don't think that they can hit that home button and go out and find another app. Most of your children, all of our students in kindergarten and first grade have one-to-one iPads, so they would have two. So they would have the iPad that is given out to all kindergartners that has some educational materials on it. It may have some things specifically for them, but then things that go out to all kindergartners as a whole. And then they would have this iPad that is their dedicated AAC device. So we just want to make sure that we're using that at all times so that they understand what that looks like. And we also make sure that the cases look different and try to make sure that, one looks a certain way and one looks a different way, so they have an idea of what things are for. So again, here's your passcode, should you need to use that. So now we're going to talk about editing. So the first thing we're going to do is watch a short video on editing using TouchChat. So if you want to find a word, up in the top left-hand corner is a button that says ABC123. You're going to go ahead and touch that. And then down at the bottom, the second button over from the left says Find Word. So you're going to touch on that, and then you'll type in whatever word you're looking for. So let's pretend we're going to look for dog. So I'll type D-O-G, and then I'm going to hit Find. And sometimes it takes a minute. And then it will tell me how to get to that word. So for example, I would go to Groups, Pets, Dog. And if I tap on the first one, it's going to guide me through it. So you'll see the rest of the screen is kind of grayed out, but I can tap Groups, and then Pets, and then Dog. So my apologies, wasn't editing first, but it was Word Finder. So this is just a way for you to go in and find words that you are thinking of that you might use a lot. I always like to give the example. I use the word silly a lot, telling kids that they're being silly or that's silly. So I always, when I first started using the app, wanted to know where that was really quickly. So I'd be able to go in and say that to students a lot because I find myself saying that to students who aren't using AAC. So I wanted to be able to say it to students who were using AAC as well. You saw there when the options for dog popped up, they're going to give you all the ways that you could navigate to the word dog. And the first one's usually going to be the quickest or the easiest. So that's usually the one that I look for in terms of following that motor plan. So what that's teaching you is kind of what buttons do you need to press to say that word. Similar to if you're typing on a keyboard and you know to do cat, you have to do CAT. And you kind of have that motor memory of where those keys are and how you're going to hit that to spell that word. So again, here we just have some written directions for you in case you're, like to be able to read through it, but just going through the same things I just talked about on the video. And we're going to talk about editing now. So your child's iPad is likely set up to have the editing function turned off. And the reason that we do this is just so that the students can't inadvertently make some changes. They're really good sometimes at touching buttons, and so they can sometimes accidentally change things that we don't want them to. So typically we like to lock them out of that editing function when they're using it and just turn it on for ourselves when we need it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to go out of the TouchChat app. If I had guided access on, I would triple click and disable it. And I'm going to go into the settings menu down at the bottom. And you'll see over here on the left-hand side, I can scroll through all my apps, just like on a phone if you have an iPhone. And down at the bottom, we have the TouchChat app. And you'll see the allow editing is grayed out down toward the bottom. But if I touch it, it's going to turn green. And then I'm going to go out of settings and back into the TouchChat app. And in the yellow bar in between what we call the message window, so the window where the words pop up and the icons, I now have a button that says vocab and a button that says menu. And menu is where I'm going to access my editing features that we're going to talk about in a minute. So that's how you're going to turn editing on if you want to make some changes to your child's iPad. And so once you have editing on, you're going to go through, and if you want to make some edits, then you're going to want to go back and kind of follow those directions backwards and turn editing off before you give the iPad back to your child. So you go out of the TouchChat app, back into settings, and then you would toggle that allow editing function in your TouchChat app off so that it turns grayed out. Then when you put your child back into the TouchChat app, again, you're going to want to turn on that guided access for them. The other button that popped up in the orange bar, I apologize, I said yellow in the video and I'm not sure why, but was a vocab button. And what that allows you to do is change the setup of the front page, like where the words are and what kind of picture support there is. That is not something that you need to be working on. This is the setup that your child is familiar with, and this is the setup that they're learning at school. So even though you may have concerns about this, or you might not feel like you know where things are, this is what needs to stay on their front page. If you have questions, that's something that we can talk about, but you would not need to be changing the vocab at this time. Okay, so again, these are just some written directions with some additional pictures that go over how to turn that editing function on and off so that you can do that. Okay, so now we're going to go through specifically how to edit certain buttons. So now that we've turned on the editing function, I'm going to show you how to go ahead and edit a button. So I'm going to tap on menu in the top right-hand corner, and you'll see then I get a small menu that comes up, and I'm going to click on edit page. The top of my page turns red, and that's just a cue to me that I'm in the editing menu. Any of the buttons that are here, we can go ahead and make edits to. We can either edit the button that's already there. We can also add a button. So for example, on the right-hand side, we have sister, but I might want to change that to my sister's name. So I'm going to tap on it, and I'm going to say edit this button. And now I have my editing menu. My editing menu does go a little bit further down, so you can swipe and see what's additional there. We have button label, and the button label is what you're going to see on the button or in the square in the app. Button message can be different. So it could say sister, but then the button message could say something like, my sister's name is Maureen. Alternately, I can also make the button label say my sister's name. So it can say Maureen or it can say Margaret, whatever your sister, if your child has a sister, whatever their name is. So I can just go ahead and change it. So I'm going to change it. My sister's name is Maureen, so I'm going to use that. And you'll see then it changes both the button label and the button message. If I'm not sure how it's going to sound, I can say pronounce. Maureen. If I had a name that it wasn't pronouncing correctly in the button message, I might want to go ahead and put it in kind of phonetically. That will help it say it correctly, and then I can check it there. I can go to select image. And if I just go to search here, it's going to search the pictures that are available in the app. So I could search girl if I want to search a girl that looks more like my sister. And so let's say I think this one looks more like her, this girl in the yellow dress, and then I can change it. I can also add an image that I've taken. So if I have a picture of my sister and I want to add it, I can say import image, and I can do image library or camera. Camera is going to allow me to take a picture. So if my sister's in front of me and I want to take a picture of her, I can do that. If I already have a picture of her saved, I can go to image library, and then it's just going to pull up my photos. My photos are going to be kind of silly, as you guys can see. So I have some things here, Brew Point. I had a student who was working at Brew Point, and so I was able to put in Brew Point for them. So I can choose that, and I can say use, and then you'll see that was the image that we put in his message for him. If I scroll a little bit further down, I can do other things like change the font size. I can change the color of the button. I can change the, what else? I can change what the button does. But I think really for now, staying in these top few areas where we're changing either the button label and or the message, and then changing pictures is probably where we're going to want to stay there. So I'm going to hit cancel. I'm not going to save that change for me. When I have things like the home button here in the top left-hand corner, I want to make sure that I'm not editing those. And as I will talk about on other slides that we have here, this front page, we don't want to really edit any of this at all. This is what's taking us into the device to the different pages that we need. So the things that we would be editing would be things like people. We can do places. Under social, you could maybe add some other things that your child or your family might say. When we go into groups, this is where you're going to have a lot of options to do some customization if you want to. So for example, if I go into the food tab, I might want to change some of these things here to either things that my child likes, or things that we might eat as a family. I can go into the specific meals up at the top and add some of those things. So for example, in my house, one of my kids is allergic to peanut butter. So that would be something that if this was her device, we probably wouldn't put it on there. But in the social page, we might have something that says, I'm allergic to peanut butter or something like that. And so that's what we do with editing a button. So here on this page, for example, we have some blank white buttons. If I clicked on those when I'm in edit mode, I'm going to get a choice to create new button. And then I'm just going to add those things from scratch, basically. So I'm going to add my button message. I'm going to add my button label, and then I'm going to go ahead and search for my picture that I want there. So again, editing is fairly simple. If you've used an app on either an Apple or an Android device, you should be able to pick it up fairly quickly. And just like I said before, I will upload these individual videos to my YouTube channel so that you're able to come back and just watch that if you want. And so then again, here we have the written directions with some arrows to show you if you like to learn with reading, a way to do it. So that's there. So again, this goes through how to add a photo. And so again, you can take a picture, kind of in real time right there. If you have a person in front of you, or I've had a parent come in before who wanted to take a picture of a specific granola bar that their child liked. So we were able to do that very quickly. And then again, I can also have images in the image library. So if I took a picture of maybe my dog, for example, and I might have it, a couple places in the app for whatever reason, like maybe I have it under pets and I have it under family, right? Because a dog might be both of those things. Then I can save the picture to the the image library, just like on a phone, and then input it into the new buttons that I'm creating. So again, I talked about this a little bit in the video, but that acceptable editing. So please do not edit any of the icons on the main page. So that main page is kind of like the starter. It takes us to all the different places we might need to go within the app. And then please do not edit any of the locations of the verbs, pronouns, adjectives on any of the topic pages. So when we were in the foods page, the word eat is in the same location on that food page as it is on the front page. And so the program keeps those in the same places so they're easier for your child to find. So if you move the eat button on the foods page, they're going to become confused because on the front page, the eat button is somewhere else. So we want to kind of keep those there. So looking at the buttons that have things that are more specific, like nouns, those would be the ones that we want to edit, and we want to keep them in those locations. Or again, any location that's white that has nothing there, you can absolutely add to that button. But so some examples of things you might want to do would be family members on the people page. You could add favorite foods on the foods page, toys. There's a toys page under groups. Under places, not that we're going very many places right now, but that might be something that you want to edit. Alternately, if you're feeling overwhelmed with kind of all of the things that are going on right now and kind of how our lives have been upended and look very different than they did a week ago, please do not feel like you need to go in and do any of this editing. This is definitely something that your child's school team can do. And we can also do things via email as well. So that would be something we could talk about if you have some editing that you really want done, but you're feeling a little overwhelmed to get that done right now. We could chat and I can make some edits and then email it to you and show you how you would upload what I've done at my house to your child's device. And we have families who might send in some information on a Post-it note or might send an email. And we had a specific family who said, we really like to eat pork chops. Could we please add the pork chops to the dinner page? And then we quick went in and did that before he went home that day. So we can easily help make some of those additions for you if you're feeling like this is something you're not ready to tackle right now. That's absolutely fine. So again, feel free to email me if you have any questions about this or want any help getting some things edited for your child. And so one thing that we would have talked about had we met in person would be the district's acceptable use policy for this device. And so we have this agreement here that I would have provided to you at that meeting, and we would have reviewed it together. And we call this our assistive technology agreement. So this is for students who are taking home a device that's part of their IEP. That we've deemed that they need there. And these are just some things that we agree to between the district and your family while you're using the district's device. And so we've waived this right now in light of the school closures, which is the same that we've done at middle school. So for example, if we had parents who had not signed the waiver for their child to take their Chromebooks home, they still took them home on that last day that we were in session. We wanted to make sure that all students who had access to a device were able to take it home. And so this is not something that we'll have you do right now, but something that will come back around when we're back in school, hopefully soon, that we would ask you to sign. So what you're agreeing to by signing this is that you agree to the district internet policy that's outlined in the parent handbook. I do have it as a URL on the actual agreement. If you'd like me to send that to you, I'm more than happy to. You're saying that you agree that you understand that the iPad's being provided by District 205 and it's only for educational purposes. So again, back to that, like we talked about before, we're not using this device for YouTube or for Netflix, rides in the car. Again, we're not going very many places these days, but, if in the future you're able to drive to grandma's, this wouldn't be kind of our media or how we're passing the time in the car. This is our voice. You understand that the apps purchased by the district are the only apps that can be downloaded on the device. So right now, we've got TouchChat on there, which is the app that your child's using. All of the other apps that are available to kindergarten and first graders are also on there. I don't have a way to not have those show up. We've tried it and it hasn't quite worked. So right now I have them all kind of dropped in a folder. It usually just says Elmhurst stuff and it's just those apps. But again, we're not using those right now. We just want your child using that TouchChat app. And then we ask that families not use a personal Apple ID to download other apps onto the iPad. If for some reason you have an app that you're interested in having your child have access to, you would contact your child's teacher and we can talk through whether or not that's something that is appropriate for what they need. And then if they do need it, how would they get it? So it might not be on this iPad, but it might be on a different device. You understand that the district has the right to block application downloads. We can implement security measures, change permissions, and we can also take the device back if we need to make any changes. Obviously, right now, we don't need to take the device back, but in the future, should we need to do any updating or things like that. You agree to properly care for the device and to notify the district if it's not working, it's damaged or lost. So, we ask that you not take it somewhere, like the beach or the pool if your child goes to swimming lessons. If you need some additional support in those areas, you can go ahead and let me know. If we had met in person, I would have had some low-tech supports for you to take home in case this is, it dies unexpectedly, or, you are going somewhere where you don't want to take it, like the pool or something like that. So we just ask that you, you take good care of it and make sure that it's, working well. And that you understand that if something were to happen to the device due to negligence, I'm sorry, that's there, that you would be responsible for replacing it. So we do understand that things are going to get damaged, lost, or stolen, and sometimes that's inevitable. And we know that. And so there's likely going to be lots of reasons why one of those things could happen, and the district is still going to replace the device. But if you took the device in the pool and it no longer works, then that would be kind of negligent use of it, and then we would ask the family to reimburse the district for purchasing a new device. So just making sure that you're using the device, appropriately, and thinking like, okay, if I was making the payments on this, or if I was paying for it myself, would I take it to this place? So just thinking that through. And again, if your child goes somewhere consistently, like the pool or things like that, that you need some additional support for, please reach out. I have waterproof paper we can print stuff on so that the ink doesn't bleed. We can do some laminating of things. We can get really creative. We can print things that go on t-shirts or things like that. So we can get really creative for how we support them with low-tech support if there's somewhere they like to go that maybe the device would not be appropriate. So we can definitely talk about that. So that's kind of a quick training for you. Again, if you think of any questions while you're home, please feel free to email me. You can also reach out to your child's teacher or the principal at your school, and I can help them work through any questions that you might have. So we thank you so much for your patience as we kind of navigate how we're going to support families while we're out of school. We miss you all, and we really hope that your children get to come back to us soon. So please stay well, and we hope to see you soon. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you so much.